Hello again, welcome to European Autocraft Studios 944 transmission projects, plural. Uh, Boy, was I looking for something simple. Take this thing apart, do some measurements, show you how it works, and move on to disassembling the shafts and all that stuff. Well, not so simple. This transmission, this is Jeff's transmission from his 944 turbo. I forget what year. I think it's an 86. Limited slip, which is nice. We're going to get the limited slip apart, show you how that works. But, boy, we're probably going to have to put a ring and pinion in this transmission. And let me show you why. I gutted the transmission and I put it back on without taking the pinion shaft out. Because I didn't have to take it out. We're going to do some measurement. We have to get it back in there without the ring gear so we can do our measurements. Well, when I put it back together, I spun it because this should have some difficulty turning. The correct amount of preload on the bearings. But I spin it, I'm like, well, it's kind of loose. Well, okay, we'll shim it, we'll get it right. Well, then I went like this, and we have vertical play in this pinion shaft. It's not a lot. I don't have the dial indicator on there, but I'm willing to bet we have at least a half a millimeter, minimum half a millimeter there. So, all right. So somebody's been in this transmission. We already know that. I found, I actually took a picture of it. The dowel pins that you drive out, one of them already had some hammer marks on it. This case had some hammer marks where it was tapped off to remove that input shaft bearing in the rear that we did. You saw me do on the other one. So I know somebody's been in there. I also believe that this ring and pinion's already been changed. This has a deviation factor on it that, and I don't recognize this marking from Porsche. So we have, where's my numbers? Where are my numbers? Oh, there they are. Okay. It is an 8.27. We have the matching number, which is 294, which we verified. And we have a deviation number of 0.44, or 0.44 millimeters. If this was the original ring and pinion, we wouldn't have that number. So, all right, maybe we could save this ring and pinion by shimming it correctly, but the problem is it's been running like this for a period of time, which caused damage and a pretty bad wear pattern. So I grabbed this picture online for you to show you the ideal wear pattern, wear pattern on a ring gear. And you can see the patches right in the center. We looked at that on the other transmission that we took off for the 944 Turbo Project transmission. And it looked just like that. It was perfect. It was undisturbed, never removed, never damaged. It worked great. But here, we have to look at this real carefully and see that you can see the way the pattern is. It's a little bit high, and the gear is being sort of pulled off as it moves. So the pattern's not in the center. You don't see a margin here. This is from running it in the wrong position. Now, not only is it in the wrong position, but this thing is rocking back and forth. So we're getting a little bit of on acceleration and deceleration. This pinion shaft is going to rock. Not a lot, but enough on a precision gear like this, it's going to make noise. I can't imagine that this thing didn't make a lot of noise. I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to Jeff about this and see what the story is with this transmission. If it was an eBay purchase as a spare transmission, or is it out of the car that he didn't drive, or if he can tell me that it had some noise, I don't know. But I don't think we're going to get this thing back in there, set it all up perfectly, and have it be quiet. I just don't think that's going to happen. Now, I was totally amazed that there is so much play in this thing that he didn't tell me, oh my God, this thing is making all kinds of horrible noises. So I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? Did I take it apart? Did the shim fall out? Nothing. No shims fell out. And take a look at this. Look at the gouges in the case. This is from our 5th gear, because this has a real close tolerance. This thing was actually rocking back and forth and scraping the case. The gear isn't damaged because this is really hardened steel. This is just mild cast iron, so it just cut that up real nice. I mean, that's just crazy. This thing had to be whining worse than me on a winter day. My God, I just whine a lot when it's cold. So that's our problem with this. And we also see, if you look close, you can see the pitting. There's actually pitting from the wear on that. You can only imagine that the pressure on this was not the same or evenly. You can see some actually pitting in the metal. So we're going to have to look into that. So another surprise, no surprise, we always get a little bit of debris. But if there's some good, look at the stuff growing on that. We got some little bits of metal here. I'm sure some of that is bearing, and some of that is our famous ring and pinion here that is slowly being eaten alive. So that's what we have to do with this. Greg. We're going to have to start there. I can't even do an accurate measurement on this because there's no preload. So once there's preload, we're going to have a little more, downward force. So it's not going to be a lot, a couple hundred thousandths of a millimeter. But we want accuracy, and we're not going to get it this way. Let's see what else. So the depth, the depth. We don't know. Is it this shim? Does this have to go up? Does it have to go down? We don't know, and we won't know. And another reason we won't know is because the stuff I got for my 385 bar to do just a little static measurement to show you how it works, I don't have the correct part still. So I borrowed one from a friend of mine, and I have everything but the one little part that I need, and the dial indicator's a little too big. It won't fit through the case. So we'll do measurements next week. Maybe I'll pull this other transmission apart. This is Pop's transmission from Georgia. We might pull this apart. Maybe we'll have some better luck at least showing you the measurements and having a pinion shaft in the correct position to begin with would be nice for showing you how it works. All right. Let's see. This is our pinion shaft here. We have S3 is the big player shim here. This is the one that's going to give us the depth, how deep into the ring gear we go. The higher this is, of course, we pull the pinion out, but we have to compensate with S4 our gap and preload. So we'll get it all squished in there, get a measurement, and once our preload and turning torque is good, then we just divide. If we have to go up, we take a little shim out of here. Take a little shim out of here, put it down here, and that'll move the pinion up and down, but maintain the preload because we want those bearings tight. That's that. That's how it all works. We'll get into that when I actually do it. I can follow along and show you how that works. There's a setup. We don't have the correct size dial indicator, and a little tiny 9.3 millimeter tip that goes on this transition with a little transition in here. This little, well, actually I can show you. That little piece right there. There's an extension that goes on that 9.3 millimeters. We don't have that exact size. We have a couple other different ones because this works on many transaxles for Volkswagen. There's the gauge setup, how it's going to work. We're going to put a magnetic plate right on the pinion shaft. You can see in there, it's just hanging down just like that. We're going to put the plate, we're going to put the gauge in, and we're going to measure the distance with a predetermined measurement that we're going to do, and I'll show you how to do that. And there's a turning torque. Not turning torque. We're going to just turn it back and forth until we get the pinion dead center. That's just indicating that rotation there. Shims, lots of shims. I'm so tired of shims everywhere. I don't have enough shims. I want shims. And there's our turning torque once we get our preload. This is how we're going to determine preload. We're going to turn it with a torque meter that will show you how much force you're putting on it to rotate it. That's our preload measurement. More shims everywhere. Shims. And there's our how we determine the total amount of shims. We take the shims out. We move the pinion shaft up and down and get a gap. We take that amount and pack it full of shims till we get the right turning torque, on and on and on. We're going to show you that when we actually do it. But that's the procedure. It's a little more complicated than just putting a gauge on it. But Jeff, this transmission is going to need some work. I didn't see anything on the shafts when I pulled them out. We'll get back into that once. I'll be looking at that during the week to see if we need any other gears or synchros. I think we'll do synchros regardless. This rocking in here, I mean, even the gears that are on that shaft had to be moving and making noise. So I imagine this was a pretty noisy transmission. So that's it for this transmission for now. I think next week I'll have this one apart, and maybe we can get a better look on how that works without having to shim it. Who knows what kind of surprises we're going to have in there. Shop news. Let's take a look around. We did some changing, some moving around. We got 2 cars coming out. My Rolls-Royce project, I'm not going to have time for it. We're going to scrap that car for now. I sold both cars, 2 old Rolls-Royces. We can always get another one. The Silver Shadows are cheap, and we need to get the shop in order now. So those cars are coming out. We're going to move all the shelving, all the equipment under where the cars were so we can make the shop nice and neat and fix the lighting. We still have so much more to do. But come take a look at where we moved some equipment. It's still messy, but we're working on it. So come follow me. Our wet blasting machine has moved now from this section over to that section. Next to it, this is pretty much where it's going to be. We can fit a lot of good stuff in there. We've wanted to open it before. We can fit engine blocks, everything. All the 944 turbo parts that we wanted to clean, we might still clean them and maybe put bearings and bushings in, but hopefully maybe we can do that for one of you guys instead of the project that we had to abandon. So this is going to be a nice machine when it's running. Get the compressor running. Further this way, 3-phase converter to run the compressor. We're still far behind on that. The electrician took a look at it. We haven't seen him since. It's incredible. So we're gathering more parts. We'll get it done eventually, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Very frustrating if you can't tell. But the shop's coming along. Next few videos you'll see some more progress as we clean this up. I'm looking forward to having a nice, clean, open shop that we can work in. Our 914 is back for an alternator upgrade. But I don't want to talk about that car. That makes me very sad, this car being here. But that's it for this week. More coming up next week. We'll get more stuff on the transmission, more little parts to order, so I can show you the 385 bar. The second transmission will be apart. Hopefully we can get a good measurement on that as well. We'll talk to Jeff about getting a ring and pinion and whatever parts we need. On and on and on. Our Mercedes is ready to go to the body shop. Waiting to hear from them. You can see that up on the lift over there. Completely gutted. That's ready to go on a rotisserie and get restored. We didn't follow too much on that. We just showed you little bits. Once it's gone, we start restoring the window regulators and interior parts. The wood should be back in a couple of weeks. All wood has been restored. That's about it. Other projects, 944 turbo. The Ferrari will be going up pretty soon, and we'll be tracking that whole project on that. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Sorry about the misunderstanding here with these the 385 bar and getting all that to work. We're still on it, and like, subscribe, please. I know you love the video, the Jaguar video. It was great. I'd love to get that car here, and I'm just going to keep babbling if we don't stop. So we'll see you next week. Thank you.